Hallo, welkom terug aan my kanaal. Vandag ons wil praat 'n bietjie Afrikaans, 'n bietjie Portugees en dan ons kom sargara. Gekook 'n ding. Today we are going to be cooking cinnamon scrolls. I love cinnamon scrolls. In Australia, we do not have Cinnabon. I'm sure a lot of you around the world have heard of Cinnabon, and they have their most delicious cinnamon bun scrolls with cream cheese topping. Well, that doesn't exist in Australia, so we don't have easy access to cinnamon scrolls, at least not good ones. The ones that you find at the supermarkets here are a bit Hey, if you have come across a good cinnamon scroll in this country, please comment below and tell me what it was like and where you got it from. I absolutely love cinnamon scrolls. They are the best. They are sweet and delicious. Cinnamon scrolls with a cinnamon filling with cream cheese topping. They are really soft and they melt in your mouth, and the sweetness is to die for. I have made this recipe before. The first time I made it, it came out absolutely perfect. From memory, the trick is to not overcook the cinnamon scrolls in the oven. Make sure you don't overcook it because you don't want to dry out the inside of the scrolls. The only thing with this recipe is it's a little bit time consuming, and time consuming in the fact that you have to let the dough rise in a couple of stages. There's a few steps involved, but generally it's actually quite an easy recipe with not too many ingredients. So make sure you have plenty of time to prepare.
Okay, let's get started. I've listed the ingredients to the left for your convenience. The dough needs time to rise, so let's get started with that. The first thing we want to do is activate the yeast in order to allow the dough to rise. What we need to do is get some milk and place it in the microwave for a few seconds. Once it's warm, we can add a packet of yeast. Mix it well and let it sit for a few minutes while we get all the other ingredients ready. Get your stand mixer ready, and you want to have a hook attachment, which is perfect for kneading. In your stand mixer bowl, you want to add in the flour, sugar and salt. At this point, you want to add in the butter in cube pieces, then add in the egg. Now attach this to the stand mixer and have it on the low setting and mix until it reaches a crumb-like consistency. Feel free to scrape the edges halfway through. Once you have the crumb-like consistency, pour in the milk while continuing to have the stand mixer operate at a low setting. You want this to continue mixing for a few minutes until the mixture turns into a dough-like consistency. My dough was quite sticky, so what I decided to do is add some more flour. Feel free to add flour if you think that it's too wet. Once the dough has reached the consistency you want, set it aside. Make sure you have a nice clean bench to work with, because the next thing you're going to do is add some flour to the dough. Now it's time to start kneading the dough. This will take a few minutes in order to get rid of any cracks and crevices. We want the dough to become a nice round ball, so this will take a few minutes. Add as much flour as you need during this process to make sure it doesn't stick to your hands and also not to stick to the bench top. Once the dough has reached the form that you'd like, add it to a bowl and cover it with a clean cloth. It will take about an hour to rise. However, if it is cold, this will take a little longer. It took about 2 hours for my dough to rise. You want the dough to be doubled in size.
2 hours later.
The dough has now doubled in size and we are ready to start rolling the dough. Before we do that, let's get the cinnamon sugar ready. Please ignore what I'm doing in the video because I've realized that what I didn't work so well. So in the video, I melted the butter, mixed the sugar and the cinnamon all together, but it became quite clumpy. So what I suggest is melt the butter, brush the butter on the pastry once it's rolled, and then sprinkle the cinnamon sugar on top of it. At this point, you want to preheat the oven at 180 degrees Celsius. Time to start rolling the dough. On a clean countertop, sprinkle flour all over the top surface. Get a rolling pin ready and also add some flour to that. Place the dough in the middle of the surface you want to work on and add some flour to it. At this point, you want to try and get the dough into a rectangular shape. So as you can see in the video, I've tried to create this spherical shape. Now start rolling the dough. What you want at the end is the dough to be a rectangle shape. You can achieve this by rolling towards the edges and try and get that shape that you desire. At the end, the dough will be about 5 millimeters thick. Once again, ignore what I'm doing on the video, as this is the mistake that I did earlier. So what you want to do here is get the melted butter and brush it all over the pastry. Then you want to get the cinnamon and sugar mixture and sprinkle that all over the pastry. Once it's evenly coated, you want to start rolling the pastry. Start from one edge and start rolling towards the center until you get all the way to the other side. You want to start firming up the pastry just so that it doesn't come apart. Now that you've rolled it, you basically have a scroll. But now it's time to cut them into even pieces. Cut mine into 2 centimeter pieces. On a greased oven-proof dish, you want to evenly spread the scrolls. It's okay if there's gaps in between them because they will rise. The next thing we want to do is allow the scrolls to rise once again. This time it's half the amount of time. So if it's warm, 30 minutes. If it's cold, about an hour. Cover it in a clean towel and place it in a warm area.
1 hour later.
So far they're looking pretty good. And don't worry about those gaps in between the scrolls. They will rise once they go into the oven. Place them in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius. After about 20 minutes, the pastry should be lightly browned on top. This should be enough time as we still want it to be quite soft in the middle. So take them out and allow them to cool while we get on with the cream cheese topping. Get your stand mixer with a whisk attachment. In the bowl, add the cream cheese and whisk on a low setting for a couple of seconds. At this point, you can incorporate the icing sugar and also the vanilla extract. Mix for a few minutes until it becomes an icing-like consistency. Now it's time to start icing the scrolls. You can still do this while the scrolls are warm. I think I waited about 10 minutes and I started to ice it. The icing kind of melts a little bit and goes inside all the nooks and crannies. Make sure you spread the icing all over the scroll. While you add it, you can also push in some of the scrolls that have popped out a bit during the baking process and try and push them with the spatula back into its position.
There you have it. The cinnamon scrolls are finished and they look absolutely amazing. Here it is right there. How delicious does that look? So good. Yum. Let's have a taste of the cinnamon scroll. Nice and warm and hot, and it just pulls apart. Look at that gooiness. It is so good. Still warm, still delicious. I'm going for the center. That's really yum. It's still warm. Even if the cinnamon scrolls are cold the next day, place it in the microwave for 30 seconds and heat it right up, and you can get that fresh baked effect straight away. It's so sweet and soft. I absolutely love this recipe. Cinnamon scrolls are one of my favorite dishes. It's easy to make, a little time consuming, but completely worth it. This is so gooey and juicy and hot and warm and delicious. Messy and maybe looking a little bit disgusting, but it's so good. I don't care. Thank you for tuning in. This recipe has been an absolute pleasure to make. I enjoyed the whole process. I really recommend that you try this recipe and give it a go yourself. Really easy, a bit of time involved, but completely worth it at the end. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel. I do plan on making videos on a regular basis, maybe not every week, but when I can. Thank you again for tuning in, and this has been yummy. Oi luck.